I was born with a built-in karma rebound system. Anyone who spreads rumors about me finds those very lies reflected back onto their own lives. In high school, a guy claimed I was a streetwalker who serviced creepy old men for spare change. That same day, he was picked up by a group of shady seniors and forced into the underground adult entertainment industry himself. In college, my boyfriend's childhood best friend told everyone I was the star of an amateur adult film. By that night, every illicit video on the dark web had been deep-faked with her face. Since then, no one has dared to whisper a word of gossip behind my back. That was until I was brought back to the Vance estate, the billionaire family I've been separated from since birth. Chloe Vance, the girl who had taken my place all these years, wrapped her arm around mine with a fake sugary smile. "Ava, I heard you got pregnant out of wedlock while you were away," he chirped, "and that the father was a convicted murderer. Now that you're home, why didn't you bring the baby? We're family, sweetie. None of us would ever look down on you for your mistakes." As the words left her mouth, my father's face turned a terrifying shade of purple. "You have a bastard child," he roared. "Ava Vance, you're barely 20. How could you bring such filth into this house?" Seeing my father's explosion, Chloe's lips curled into a tiny, satisfied smirk. She quickly covered her mouth, pretending to be shocked. "Oh, my God. Did Ava not tell you?" "Dad. I'm so sorry, Ava. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have said anything." She turned to my father, her voice dripping with artificial concern. "Dad, please don't be mad at her. She's been out there on her own for years. She must have had her reasons." She turned back to me, her eyes glistening with crocodile tears. "Don't worry, Ava. From now on, I'll help you keep this a secret. I won't let anyone say a single bad thing about you." Just as she finished, a sophisticated woman rushed out of the villa and pulled me into a crushing embrace. "Ava, my baby girl. Mama finally found you." She wept against my shoulder, only noticing the eerie silence after several long moments. "What's wrong? Why is everyone staring at Ava? What were you all talking about?" "It's nothing, Mom. Ava's had a long trip and she's probably exhausted. Let's get her inside," Chloe interjected. She shot a knowing look at my father, acting like she was protecting my dignity. I spoke up, my voice calm and clear. She said, "I got pregnant by a murderer and had a child out of wedlock." My mother's face went pale. "What, Ava? You?" "I didn't." "She's lying, Ava." Chloe's voice spiked an octave as a tear rolled down her cheek. "I was trying to help you. How could you call me a liar?" she sobbed, taking a step back. "All those dirty secrets you have. Do you really want me to expose everything in front of everyone?" She bit her lip, looking at our parents with a perfectly timed expression of hesitation. "What else is there?" The veins on my father's forehead were bulging. "Chloe, speak. I want the truth right now." Chloe looked like she was making a painful sacrifice as she bowed deeply toward me. "I'm sorry, Ava. I know you wanted to hide it, but Mom and Dad deserve the truth." She sighed heavily and whispered, "When I heard we were bringing you home, I looked into your past so I could buy you the right gifts, but I accidentally found out." She took a shaky breath, acting as if the words were too heavy to speak. "Ava has been selling herself since high school. She was a professional escort." The room went dead silent before a wave of gasps broke out. My father was shaking with pure rage. "You monster! How could the Vance family produce such a low-class slut?" My mother stumbled back, looking at me with pure disbelief and horror. I just stared at Chloe with a half-smile. "You absolutely sure about these stories, Chloe? Lies have a funny way of coming back to haunt people. Of course it's true." "You, Before she could finish, she was doubled over, retching violently. Her stomach suddenly looked oddly bloated, pushing against her designer dress. I blinked innocently, the corners of my mouth twitching upward. I told her karma is a bitch. "Chloe, what's happening? Why are you so sick?" My parents rushed to her side, their voices frantic with worry. I stood my ground, tilting my head curiously. "Well, Chloe, that looks exactly like morning sickness." The air in the foyer turned to ice for a few seconds. "What are you talking about?" Chloe shrieked, looking like she'd been slapped. "I don't even have a boyfriend. How could I be pregnant? Just because you're loose and did disgusting things doesn't mean you can project that onto me." Seeing her crying like a wounded bird made my parents' hearts ache. My father's eyes burned with fury. "Ava Vance, you're spreading disgusting rumors about your sister. You have absolutely no class." My mother looked at me with pure disappointment. "Ava, that was too far. Your sister hasn't even been around men. How could she possibly be pregnant?" I blinked, looking perfectly guileless. "I was just guessing, but since she's throwing up like that, maybe we should call a doctor." "No." Chloe's refusal was too fast. She covered her mouth and coughed, her eyes darting around the room in a panic. "I just had something bad for lunch. I just need to lie down." She leaned weakly against my mother, playing the victim card to the max. My parents immediately helped her into the villa, treating her like she was made of glass. I watched them leave, my eyes narrowing. Chloe's reaction was off. It was as if she already knew she was pregnant. A surge of excitement bubbled up inside me. This was going to be fun. I followed them into the house and stood by her bedside. Chloe, I was so worried that I called a doctor. He'll be here any minute. If there's something wrong, it's better to find out now so Mom and Dad can stop worrying. My parents looked at me with a hint of approval for my supposed thoughtfulness. Chloe, however, went white as a sheet and buried her face in Mom's shoulder. Mom, I don't want a doctor. My mother patted her back, about to speak, when that won't be necessary. A deep, cold voice came from the doorway. My older brother, Xander, walked in. He looked me up and down with nothing but pure disgust in his eyes. So you're Eva. Let me make one thing clear. You might share our blood, but Chloe is my only sister. You have no right to interfere in her life. He walked straight to Chloe and gently wiped her tears away. If Chloe doesn't want a doctor, she won't see one. I'm here for you, princess. Chloe threw herself into Xander's arms, sobbing loudly. I knew you were the only one who cared about me, Xander. Watching the two of them, I felt a spark of realization. Wow, I said, my voice full of forced wonder. You two are so close. Even though you aren't biological siblings, you're incredibly intimate. The room shifted. Xander pulled his hand away as if he'd been burned. Ears turned red and his eyes flashed with anger. What the hell are you implying? Chloe started sobbing even harder, pointing a trembling finger at me. Ava, how can you say that about me and Xander? Are you just trying to distract everyone? Are you making up lies about me? So Mom and Dad won't ask about your murderer boyfriend? She bit her lip, looking devastated. Actually, I found out that Ava was bullied and hurt before she came here. I was going to ask Mom and Dad to help her. I can't believe she's doing this to me. My mother immediately tensed up, hurt. Ava, who hurt you? I sat down on a chair feeling amused. I have no idea, Chloe. Who exactly hurt me? Ava, don't be scared. It wasn't your fault. Her eyes were filled with pitying tears. My sources told me a few months ago. You were dragged into an alleyway by 7 or 8 thugs. I did terrible things to you. She sighed, reaching out to try and grab my hand. The first time was forced. But Ava, how could you be so foolish? Why did you keep seeing them? The neighbor said they saw those men coming in and out of your place, half naked every other day. She trailed off, looking like she was too traumatized to continue. You disgusting brat. How could you have no shame? My father roared, his face darkening to a bruised plum color. My mother clutched her chest, pointing a trembling finger at me. Ava, tell me this isn't true. Ava Vance, you are a disgrace. Xander stood up, looming over me. We don't need someone like you in this family. Get out now. I looked at their twisted, angry faces and felt the utter absurdity of it all. I hadn't done any of that. But even if I had, shouldn't my family's first reaction be concerned that I was assaulted? Ava, even though you were messing around with those people, I know you can change, Chloe urged. If you just apologize and cut ties with those men, Mom and Dad will forgive you. I let out a soft laugh, looking her dead in the eye. I don't know any thugs. Why would I apologize? And Chloe, didn't I tell you? Lies come back to haunt the liar. Why do you keep saying that to me? Chloe squeezed out a few more tears and pulled out her phone, thrusting the screen in front of everyone. If I'm a liar, then how do you explain these photos? On the screen was a photo of a girl in skimpy clothes, lying provocatively among a group of men. To make it worse, she swiped to show another photo of me holding a baby. My parents' faces were now completely black with rage. The photos are fake. I reminded her calmly. I'm telling you for the last time. Karma is coming for you. I'm not lying. Ifine. I interrupted. Just don't regret it. Later, with the rebound system active, I wasn't the one who was going to suffer. Chloe Vance was about to learn the hard way that her mouth was her own undoing. The silence in the foyer was so heavy it felt like it could shatter the marble floors. My father reached out, his hand trembling with absolute rage, and snatched the phone from Chloe's grasp. Let me see the proof, he demanded, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Let me see the filth she brought into this family. My mother covered her eyes, unable to look, while Xander stood tall, crossing his arms with a look of vindicated disgust directed entirely at me. Look closely, Dad, Chloe sniffled, wiping away her crocodile tears. I didn't want to show you, but Ava gave me no choice. I leaned back in my chair, picking at a stray thread on my jeans. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The karma rebound system didn't operate on a delay. It was instantaneous, a rewriting of reality itself to reflect the malice of the liar. My father's eyes locked onto the screen. I watched the exact moment the blood drained from his face. The furious plum color of his cheeks faded to a sickly, ashen gray. His jaw went slack. What? He breathed. He blinked hard, pulling the phone closer to his face, then shoved it toward Xander. Xander, look at this. Xander scoffed, stepping forward. Dad, don't let it upset you. We'll just kick Ava out and he stopped dead. Xander's eyes widened to the size of saucers. He grabbed the phone frantically, swiping back and forth between the two photos. Chloe, Xander's voice was suddenly very quiet. Very dangerous. What kind of sick joke is this? What? Chloe blinked, her fake innocent facade slipping for a fraction of a second. It's Ava. I had a private investigator. This isn't Ava. Xander roared, suddenly throwing the phone onto the plush Persian rug. It bounced, landing face up. My mother let out a startled shriek and scrambled forward to look. She gasped, clapping both hands over her mouth. I stood up slowly and walked over to the phone, glancing down. The system worked beautifully. The girl in the photo, lying provocatively among a group of grimy, tattooed men, wearing practically nothing, wasn't me. It was Chloe. Her face, perfectly clear, flushed with pleasure. And the second photo? Chloe in a hospital bed, holding a screaming newborn baby. I don't understand, Chloe stammered, rushing forward to scoop up the phone. She looked at the screen and let out a blood-curdling scream, dropping it as if it had burned her hands. No, that's not what was there a second ago. I swear to God, it was Ava. Ava hacked my phone. She altered the photos. I hacked your phone? I asked, my tone conversational. From 5 feet away? With my hands empty. You did something. Chloe shrieked, her voice cracking. Suddenly her face turned a violent shade of green. She clamped a hand over her mouth, fell to her knees, and began dry heaving violently onto the pristine floor. Her stomach, which had been perfectly flat in her designer silk dress 10 minutes ago, now strained against the fabric. A distinct, unmistakable bump was visible. My God, my mother whispered, backing away from Chloe as if she were a rabid dog. Chloe, your stomach. You look pregnant. I finished for her. She looks about 4 months pregnant, actually. Interesting how that happens. Shut up. Xander snapped at me, though he didn't rush to comfort Chloe this time. He stared at her midsection with a look of utter betrayal. Chloe, look at me. Tell me those photos are fake. Tell me you aren't pregnant. I'm not. I'm a virgin. Chloe sobbed, gagging between words. Xander, you know me. I would never. Before she could finish her sentence, the heavy oak double doors of the Vance estate burst open. We all turned. Standing in the doorway was the head of the estate's security, bleeding from his lip and looking terrified. Mr. Vance, I'm so sorry, we couldn't stop them. He was violently shoved aside. Into the pristine chandelier-lit foyer stomped a group of men. There were exactly 8 of them. They looked like they had crawled out of a gritty underground fighting ring. Leather jackets, neck tattoos, heavy combat boots tracking mud onto the marble. My father gripped the edge of the console table, clutching his chest. Who the hell are you people? I'm calling the police. The leader of the group, a massive man with a jagged scar running down his jaw, let out a booming laugh. He didn't look at my father. He looked straight past him, down at the floor where Chloe was still violently retching. Call the cops, old man. See if I care. The scarred man grunted. I just came to check on my girl. Chloe's head snapped up. Her tear-streaked face contorted in absolute horror. I don't know you. Get out. The system's reality warp was flawless. Chloe had claimed I was dragged into an alley by 8 thugs, and that I kept seeing them willingly afterward. The universe had simply taken her lie, scratched out my name, and inserted hers. Don't know me. A smaller, wiry man with gold teeth stepped forward, looking genuinely hurt. Damn, Chloe. That's cold. After what we did last Tuesday. You said you loved the way I. Shut your filthy mouth. Xander lunged forward, raising his fist. The scarred man caught Xander's fist in midair, twisted it, and casually shoved my brother into the wall. Xander crumpled, groaning in pain. Don't touch him. Chloe screamed. Then tell your preppy brother to back off, baby. The scarred man said, pulling a massive wad of Polaroids from his jacket pocket and tossing them like confetti onto the floor. We haven't seen you at the apartment in 2 weeks. The boys were getting lonely. Plus, you still owe us for the party favors. My parents stared at the Polaroids scattering across the floor. They were graphic. Far more graphic than the ones on the phone. And in every single one of them, Chloe was the star, smiling, participating, entirely willing. No, Chloe sobbed, burying her face in her hands. This isn't real. This is a nightmare. Ava is doing this. Ava is a witch. Who the hell is Ava? The scarred man asked, glancing around. His eyes landed on me. He shrugged indifferently. Don't know her. Don't care. Come on, Chloe. Grab your coat. The boys missed you. I am Chloe Vance, she shrieked, scrambling backward like a crab. I am a Billionaire's daughter. I would never touch trash like you. My father finally found his voice. It was a broken, rattling sound. Get out of my house. All of you. Now. We'll leave, a third thug said, spitting on the rug. When she pays her tab. And when she tells us whose kid she's carrying. The room went dead. My mother collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing hysterically into her hands. My father looked like he was about to have a stroke. Xander, nursing his bruised shoulder, stared at Chloe with an expression of shattered idolatry. Kid. Xander choked out. Chloe, is it true? No. Chloe screamed, her voice tearing her throat. Then why the hell is your stomach bulging, baby? The scarred man laughed. Though honestly, with the crowd you run with, God only knows who the daddy is. I leaned against the stair banister, unable to hide my smirk. Actually, I piped up. I think Chloe mentioned earlier that the father is a convicted murderer. Didn't you, Chloe? The thugs went completely silent. The scarred man's face paled beneath his dirt and grime. A murderer? He looked at the others. She ain't talking about Razor, is she? The wiry man swallowed hard. Man, if she's knocked up by Razor, we gotta go. If Razor finds out we've been touching his girl. Without another word, the 8 men exchanged terrified looks, turned on their heels and sprinted out the door, abandoning Chloe on the floor. The silence they left behind was suffocating. My father slowly walked over to Chloe. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked dead inside. Dad, Chloe whimpered, reaching out to grasp his pant leg. Dad, please. It's a setup. I swear on my life, I don't know those men. My father kicked his leg free, stepping back as if her touch was infectious. Dr. Eris is on his way, he said, his voice completely hollow. He will examine you. If you are pregnant, you are no daughter of mine. Mom, Chloe begged, turning to the woman who just 20 minutes ago had held her like precious glass. My mother couldn't even look at her. She just wept, shaking her head. Xander. Chloe whispered, her last resort. Xander, who had promised to protect her. Xander, whose relationship with her had always bordered on inappropriately close. Xander looked at the Polaroids on the floor, then at her visibly swollen stomach. The pure disgust in his eyes was identical to the look he had given me when I first walked in. You disgust me, he spat, turning his back on her. 10 minutes later, Dr. Eris rushed in with his medical bag. He was an older man, discreet and highly paid. My father ordered him to perform a portable ultrasound, right there in the downstairs guest room. They didn't even want her going up to her bedroom. I sat in the living room, pouring myself a cup of Earl Grey tea. The Vance family had ignored me entirely since the thugs arrived. I was fine with that. I was just the audience. A few moments later, Dr. Eris emerged from the guest room. My parents and Xander immediately stood up. Well, my father demanded. Dr. Eris wiped his brow with a handkerchief. Arthur, she is approximately 16 weeks pregnant. The physical symptoms came on astonishingly fast, almost like a rapid hormonal spike, but the fetus is definitely there. My mother wailed, burying her face in Xander's chest. Who is the father? My father asked, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. She refuses to speak, Dr. Eris sighed. She's practically catatonic, just muttering about a curse. However, the doctor hesitated. When I drew her blood, a man called her phone. The caller ID said prison collect call. I answered it. My father's eye twitched. And the man on the line identified himself as Marcus Razor Thorne. He said he heard she was back in town. He said he's breaking out of maximum security tonight, and he's coming for his wife and his baby. Xander stepped back, looking physically sick. Marcus Thorne? The cartel hitman, who dismembered 3 people last year. That Marcus Thorne? I'm afraid so, Dr. Eris said grimly. I took a slow sip of my tea. Convicted murderer. The system didn't cut corners. Suddenly, my father turned to me. His eyes were bloodshot, completely devoid of the aristocratic arrogance he had worn when I arrived. You, he pointed a trembling finger at me. You brought this curse into my house. Everything was fine until you walked through that door. I set my teacup down. The porcelain clinked softly against the saucer. Let's get one thing straight, Arthur, I said, dropping the title of Dad entirely. I walked into this house, and I didn't say a single word about Chloe. She wrapped her arm around me and told you I was pregnant by a murderer. He told you I was a streetwalker. She told you I slept with thugs. I stood up, smoothing down my jacket. I didn't bring filth into your house. I just acted as a mirror. You're just mad because you're realizing the daughter you raised is a monster, and the daughter you abandoned is perfectly fine without you. You little bitch, Xander snarled, taking a step toward me. Take another step, Xander, I warned, my voice dropping to a freezing temperature. and I'll start talking about you. I wonder what kind of karma would rebound if I started spreading rumors about a brother who sneaks into his adopted sister's bed at night? Shall we test it out and see how the universe rewrites your life? Xander froze, all the color draining from his face. My parents snapped their heads toward him. What is she talking about, Xander? My mother asked, her voice trembling. And nothing, Xander stammered, backing away. She's insane. I smiled. Smart boy. My father was a businessman first and a human being second. Within an hour he made a decision. Chloe was a liability. Worse, she was a target for a cartel hitman. Pack her things. My father barked at the maids. She leaves tonight. Put her on a private jet to the facility in Switzerland. I don't want her face anywhere near the press. He turned to me, attempting to straighten his posture and regain his dignity. Ava, tonight is the annual Vance charity gala. It is the most important night of the year for my company. I will introduce you as my long-lost daughter. You will wear a dress, you will smile, and you will not mention a word of this. You want me to go to a gala after all this? I laughed. You people are psychopaths. You are a Vance, he snapped. You will do your duty to this family. I thought about refusing, but then I remembered the last lie Chloe had told. Before her stomach bloated, Ava has been selling herself since high school. She was a professional escort. The thugs had handled the gangbang lie. The ultrasound had handled the murderer. Pregnancy lie. But the escort lie? That hadn't fully bloomed yet. All right, I said smoothly. I'll go to the gala. They locked Chloe in her room with a security guard outside while the maids packed her bags. She was set to fly out at midnight. The gala started at 8. They dressed me in a stunning, custom-tailored emerald gown. The makeup artists fussed over me, amazed by how much I looked like my mother in her youth. When I descended the stairs, my father gave a curt nod of approval. Remember, he said tightly as we got into the limousine. You are polished. You are perfect. You spent the last 20 years in a prestigious boarding school in Europe. That is the official story. Whatever you say, Arthur. The gala was held at the city's grandest hotel ballroom. Hundreds of billionaires, politicians, and socialites mingled under crystal chandeliers. My father paraded me around, introducing me with a fake, beaming smile. My mother played the role of the weeping, overjoyed matriarch. It was utterly nauseating. An hour into the event, a commotion stirred near the entrance. I turned my head, sipping a glass of sparkling water. There, bursting through the security detail, was Chloe. She looked entirely deranged. She had clearly escaped her room, stealing a maid's uniform to sneak out, but she had thrown a sequin cocktail dress over it. Her hair was a tangled mess, her makeup smeared down her face. She looked exactly like what she had accused me of being, a cheap streetwalker. Dad, Chloe screamed across the silent ballroom. Dad, you can't send me away. I'm your real daughter. She's a witch. She's a demon. The entire ballroom fell dead silent. The string quartet stopped playing. Hundreds of eyes turned to the spectacle. My father's face went apoplectic. Security, get that lunatic out of here. But before the guards could reach her, an older, heavily balding billionaire, a major investor in my father's company, stepped forward from the crowd. He adjusted his glasses, peering at Chloe. Wait a minute, the billionaire said, his voice carrying in the quiet room. Diamond? Is that you? Chloe froze, panting heavily. My name is Chloe. No, I'm quite sure it's Diamond. Another man, a prominent judge, spoke up from the back. He looked deeply uncomfortable, but couldn't stop himself from speaking. The system compelled the truth to surface. You charged me $5,000 an hour last month at the Four Seasons. You told me you were trying to pay off a gambling debt. Whispers erupted like wildfire. I know her too. A third man, a young tech CEO, laughed nervously. She's the top-rated girl on the Velvet Blacklist app. 5 stars. She does this thing with ice cubes. Shut up. Chloe shrieked, clamping her hands over her ears. I don't know any of you. I am a virgin. I am a Vance. My father looked like he was about to physically implode. The CEO of the largest shipping conglomerate in the country, his daughter was a high-end escort for half the men in the room. The absolute destruction of his legacy was happening in real time. Arthur, the balding billionaire said, looking at my father with utter disdain. Is this true? You've been hiding the fact that your daughter is a working girl. She is adopted. My father choked out, throwing her under the bus. Instantly. She is deeply unwell. We are cutting all ties with her. Dad. No, Chloe wailed, falling to her knees. She crawled toward him, but the security guards finally grabbed her by the arms, dragging her backward. As they dragged her out, her eyes locked onto mine. I was standing next to the Champagne tower, untouched, unbothered, looking like royalty. Ava, lift the curse, she screamed, her voice cracking in desperation. Please. I take it back. I take it all back. I raised my glass of sparkling water to her in a silent toast. Too late, Chloe. Enjoy the rebound. The fallout was apocalyptic. The Vance family name was dragged through the mud the very next morning. The tabloids had a field day. Billionaire's daughter exposed as high society escort. Pregnant by a cartel killer? The dark double life of Chloe Vance. My father's company stock plummeted by 30% in a single day. I sat in the estate's grand dining room the next morning, eating a croissant and reading the paper. My father was pacing the room, screaming into his phone at his PR team. My mother was heavily sedated on the sofa. Xander was nowhere to be found. When my father finally hung up, he turned to me. He looked 10 years older. You see what you've done? He croaked. I didn't do anything, I replied calmly. Chloe did this to herself. If she had just smiled and drank her tea yesterday, none of this would have happened. But she couldn't resist trying to ruin me. My father stared at me. For the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine fear in his eyes. He realized he was dealing with something he couldn't control with money or influence. What do you want, Ava? He asked quietly. I want to leave, I said, wiping my mouth with a linen napkin. I came here because I was curious about my biological family. Now I know. You are weak, shallow, and toxic. I don't want your money. I don't want your name. You can't leave. My mother whimpered from the sofa, suddenly waking from her stupor. You're all we have left. Xander packed his bags this morning. Couldn't handle the shame. That sounds like a you problem, Arthur, I said, standing up. Ava, please. My father stepped forward, his pride finally breaking. We can fix this. We can build a new legacy with you. A legacy built on a rotting foundation is still going to collapse, I said. I picked up the small duffel bag I had brought with me. I hadn't unpacked a single thing. As I walked toward the front door, the news station on the massive flat screen TV in the living room broke into a special report. Breaking news. Maximum security fugitive Marcus Razor, Thorne has been apprehended by state police. Authorities say Thorne was captured outside a private airfield, attempting to hijack a jet destined for Switzerland. Accompanying him was disgraced socialite Chloe Vance, who authorities say willingly aided his escape. Both are now in federal custody. I stopped and watched the screen. They showed footage of Chloe, handcuffed, her makeup smeared, being shoved into the back of a police cruiser by a SWAT team. She looked utterly broken. The karma was complete. Every lie she told had become her permanent reality. She was an escort, she was involved with thugs, and she was going to have a murderer's baby behind bars. I turned back to my biological parents one last time. They were staring at the TV, completely hollowed out. Have a nice life, I said. I walked out the heavy oak doors, down the sweeping driveway, and out the iron gates. The sun was shining. The air felt incredibly fresh. I didn't know where I was going next, but I knew one thing for certain. With my built-in system, I would never have to worry about the cruelty of the world. Because in my world, the wicked always dug their own graves. I just had to stand back, smile, and watch them fall in.